My name's David Day. It's good to be with you. My name is David Day also if we have met, but either way. I just want to say welcome. Happy Memorial Day weekend. It is officially camping season. So where are my campers at? Like you camp in a tent. You are brave. Okay, there's my people. Where are my trailer people at? Like, okay. Where are the people that have a bed at home and use it? Thank you. You are my type of people. You're my type of people, and I'm glad to be with you today. Today we're going to have some fun. We're in a series called Hope Rising. And the heartbeat of this whole series is just that we want to declare war on discouragement. We want to declare war on discouragement. We want to say that we want to be people of hope wherever we live. We're praying for hope for our marriage, hope for our families, hope in trial, hope in grief. And today we're talking about hope for our cities. And so as we do this, I recognize this one, we are all in the same city right now. If you're sitting in this room, if you're online watching on Facebook Live, hi, wherever you are. But I want to know, where are my people at that moved to Kitsap from another state? If you moved here from another state, okay, keep your hand up if you're from California. Okay, I just want to say I'm sorry about our Mexican food and that we don't have In-N-Out. So we're working on that. Where are the Washingtonians in here that are transplants to Kitsap? So you're from somewhere else in Washington originally. You made it over to the land of no traffic. Good job. And then where are my longtime Kitsappers at? You're in here? Okay, a little woo-woo. Good to see you. I'm from Kirkland, the home of Costco. If you're like Kirkland Signature, yes, it's why it's named Kirkland Signature Brand. But I've been over in Kitsap for about 7 years, and I'm learning what it means to be from Kitsap. And so as I was getting my heart ready and prepped for today, I posted on Facebook, as one does, you know you're from Kitsap if ... and let people finish. And really what I primarily learned was people have a hard time with the drivers in Kitsap. Somebody wrote, you know you're from Kitsap if you drive 55 miles an hour on the freeway in the fast lane. And I'm like, I'm not close to you because I want to be your friend. Get over, like, if that's you, I love you, but the right lane, that's for you. Somebody said, you know you're from Kitsap if you think Silverdale has bad traffic. You know you're from Kitsap if you avoid West Bremerton from 3:15 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on a weekday. For me, I know I'm from Kitsap if I drive through Gorst without getting pulled over, and I feel victorious. Every time I drive through there, I'm like, please don't. It just drops so quick. And then there's other things. There's like, you know you're from Kitsap if you don't think the brothers are actually siblings. People kept saying, like, we're staring at the brothers. We're going to go to the brothers. I'm like, who are you talking about? And they're like, the mountain, it's out. I'm like, I don't know. Okay. But my favorite is, you know you're from Kitsap if you're disappointed with any donut other than Sly's. Am I right? Anybody just needs some Sly's right now? You're free to go. You're free to go. No, but I've been like processing this week, and I love Kitsap. There's so many things. I love the weather in the summer. I love the outdoors. I love that you can hike a mountain and swim in the ocean in the same day. I love the people. I love that they're building new schools. I love so many things, but I think like any city or community, Kitsap has things that you walk in and you go, there's brokenness. There's challenges. There's places that I actually see holes and hardships. Today we're going to be talking about broken walls in a community. The things that maybe aren't where they should be or aren't to the standard they should be at. And I think it's easy to walk into the room and identify those. But today, I want to address this. I believe this church has the capacity to give Kitsap the two things it needs most. One, the good news of who Jesus is and the hope of Jesus. And two, hope-filled people. I believe more than anything, this community needs those two things. And we get to be hope-filled people. In fact, I don't think our community will be interested in the good news of Jesus if they don't see the church loving the city. And so you're like, today, why are we talking about hope for our city? Because I think the city won't be compelled by the church until the church runs to the city. I think it's easy to walk into a community and I kind of identify where the brokenness is. It's easy to be a thermometer in a city, right? To read the temperature. Anybody can do that. Anybody can walk in and go, well, there's brokenness here, or there's things here that are wrong, or this is a great city because I'm in Palm Springs. We get it. You're from there. It's awesome. But it's hard to be a thermostat. It's hard to be the person that walks into the room and says, we're going to raise the bar here. We're going to take the energy level up. We're in this series, Hope Rising, because we think we get to take the energy up. We get to go into the things that look broken and feel broken and aren't where they need to be and say, we're going to bring hope in the middle of this. Have you ever had to bring hope to a hopeless place? I had the opportunity about 3 months ago when I had to go to the dentist office. Anybody love the dentist in here? Counseling is available. Anybody in here just like that you tolerate the dentist because you know it's good for your teeth, so you'll go, but it's not your favorite? Okay, who hates the dentist? Who is the dentist? I just need to know. Yeah, that's a liar. But I got the privilege to find out that I got to have my second root canal on the same tooth. Lucky me. I take good care of all my teeth but one, and so I knew like the process. Actually, the second one's better because they don't need to numb you. Everything's dead there anyways. But I knew the process. I was going to go to the dentist like 5 times. And so I made a resolve. I said, I am going to be the happiest person this dentist office has ever seen. I'm going to live and like believe like the dentist office has hope for my teeth. And so every time I walked in there, I would walk in, open the door, be like, hi. And I started to get to know the receptionist. I'd be like, hey, Gina. You know, like you're walking in. They're like, hey, David, you can have a seat. I'm like, okay, thank you. And I'm sitting there waiting for the hygienist, and the hygienist comes in, and I look at the hygienist, and she goes, David? I'm like, that's me. She's like, you're the only one here. I'm like, I know, but I'm really excited. And we start walking, and she's like, how's your day going? I'm like, so excited. This is the best part. She's like, oh, no, horrible rest of the day? No, I have a birthday party later. And I'm just like so excited. She sits me down in the seat with the view of the mountains. I'm like, first class, thank you. She's like, that's just the only seat available. Every time I was there, I would like find myself just have you ever complimented the dentist as they're working? No, because nobody does that. But I was like, you're doing a great job brushing our teeth. They're like, please stop talking. It makes it hard. I'm like, okay. There was one point, like one of my last visits, they had to like make temporary crowns and cement it in and then take it off every other time I came in to make sure my now beautiful whitest tooth in my mouth fits well. And the first time she gets it off the first try. And I just like, I couldn't, like it was a natural response. I just applauded. She's like, nobody's ever applauded me before. The last day I was there, I came with gift cards. I was like, thank you so much for the great experience. They're like, what are you doing? But do you know what I watched? Every time I came into that office, the energy rose, the hope rose. I believe that's what the church is called to do in this community. That we're supposed to enter into places that feel broken, that feel hurting, that feel lost, and we're supposed to raise the temperature. We're supposed to raise the levels of hope. Here's what hope does in a community. First thing it does is it liberates it. It sets it free from its past. There's so many cycles of poverty, cycles of brokenness, cycles of things in a community. And when you come in with hope, you actually say, I don't care about the past. We're moving forward. I have vision for the future. It gives you peace in the present. It motivates you to believe, to have vision, to build dreams, to see things again that could be better. And the last thing it does, it activates you to move. I believe we need more hope in the city. And I just firmly believe that the church needs to love the city before the city is compelled to love the church. God uses hope-filled people to transform a city. God uses hope-filled people to change the stories in a community. God uses people who can see beyond the brokenness, can see beyond the hurt, can see beyond all the walls and all the layers to see something better. But it's not just like a random hope. It's a hope that is founded in the person of Jesus. We have hope because in our brokenness, Jesus came in and did something, and then he invites us into the reconciliation process in others. I love what Romans 15:13 says. It says, I pray that God, the source of hope, will fill you completely with joy and peace because you trust in him. Then you will overflow with confident hope through the power of the Holy Spirit. Can I ask you, are you overflowing with hope? Are you overflowing with expectation for your city? Are you overflowing with expectation for your family? Are you overflowing with a vision of what God wants to do in the schools in this community, in the businesses in this community, in all the Kitsap County resources for those that are broken? Do you believe there's a better day ahead? Because as people of the cross, as a person who follows Jesus, I am compelled to believe that the good work that he's doing is going to continue forward. So today I want to tell you stories of hope. I want to tell you stories of hope for a city. And we're going to start in the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah, it's about a third of the way through your Bibles. If you have a Bible, if you have a smartphone and you have the app on your phone, you can go there, or it will be on the iPad in the sky. So we're starting in the book of Nehemiah. I want to give you the context real quick. 586 BC, Jerusalem, the city, is attacked by Babylon. They're taken out of Jerusalem, actually the province, the southern kingdom of Judah. And you're taken out of there, and you're moved into exile. No hope. Oppressed. For 50 years, they lived in this reality. And then about 538 BC, the king of Persia said, I'm going to actually send some people back. I'm going to let them begin to restore and refresh and build up their country again and build up Jerusalem again. Nehemiah comes on the scene about 100 years after that. The restoration process has not gone well. Nehemiah was born in exile. He's a Jewish boy born in Babylon, and his rank is actually pretty high. He's the cupbearer to the king, which basically his job is to take drinks of the cupbearer's drinks to make sure they're not poisonous. Awesome. It benefits free drinks. Downside, you could die. It happens. But he's working one day, and so people are coming home from Jerusalem. They're coming back to Babylon from Jerusalem. He asks, how is the rebuilding effort going? And they said this. They said to me, things are not going well for those who return to the province of Judah. They are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down, and the gates have been destroyed by fire. When I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days, I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. Bad news. There are broken walls. Bad news, there are holes. What are the brokenness and broken areas in our community? What are the broken walls? Where are we susceptible? Think about the foster care situation in Kitsap County. I don't know if you know this. There's not enough foster homes in Kitsap County to keep all the kids here, so kids get shipped off to other counties every month. That's a hole. I don't know if you noticed this, homeless numbers have been rising in Kitsap County. I don't know if you noticed this, there are problems all over the place, and our job is to live as people of hope in the reality of all of that. So what do you see Nehemiah do? The first thing you see him do is I have it right here, is he's moved by the brokenness he sees. Hope-filled people are moved by the brokenness he sees. I think, again, it's easy to see brokenness. It's easy to feel sad. It's easy to feel like I should do something. And it's also easy to escape it, to numb out against it. But what we're called to do as people of hope is to feel it. I love the reaction you see in Nehemiah. He mourns it. I think first you got to feel it before you can heal it. First you got to experience it. First you got to know it. And then he fasts and he prays. What would move you so much that you would choose to not eat? What would move you so much that you would choose to change the things in your life that you take for granted? Have you ever been moved by something? I remember I was in the Dominican Republic. I think I shared this with some of you a couple years back, but I was in the Dominican Republic with Children of the Nation, kind of looking at the projects they did over there. And we were looking at all these things, and they said, David, we want to take you somewhere. And so we pulled up along the side of the road, walked down a hill, crossed a river, and they're like, by the way, you're in Haiti now, so I have illegally entered Haiti. And they take us up over another hill, and we come, and there's this giant refugee camp. I've seen a lot of poverty in my life. I have never seen that level of poverty. I've seen a lot of hurt in my life. I've never seen that level of physical hurt. And we're walking around the camps and we're seeing houses made out of T-shirts and plastic bottles. And we're seeing one universal latrine. And they're lucky they have a latrine. And there's everybody in this community, they're standing out. There's no shelter from anything. And I see this little 9-year-old girl. And at that time, my wife was pregnant with my daughter. And I'm feeling all the emotions. And I see this 9-year-old girl living in the middle of a refugee camp. Literally, she has to carry her brother and sister to go down to the water to get water to bring back to the family. Our translator said, look, it's a baby holding a baby. I remember seeing her, and feeling compelled. And so I walked over to her and I was like, what do you do with a kid? You don't speak their language. I don't know what to do. So I gave her a high five, because that's what you do. And high fives are universal. I gave her like a poundage. She's like, boom. So I was like, high 10. She's like, I don't know what to do with that. It was actually like this. I remember she put her hands on my hands. And I was like, what do you do in the moment when you're faced with brokenness, when brokenness has a face? So I just got down on my knee. And I looked at her. She just fell into me. Like nobody's ever seen her. Like nobody's ever paid attention to her. Like nobody's ever stopped for her. What are the things that move you? That move you to a place where you go, God, would you do something about this? Because I have a face of a little girl in the Dominican Republic, actually Haiti, in my mind that doesn't have a home, that doesn't have safety, that doesn't have security. And I have a call, a mandate on God to be somebody that comes before God on her behalf, praying for hope, praying for more. My wife works in the foster care system, and so we talk about stuff all the time, about the realities of what's going on. That's how I know some of the statistics. And about a year and a half ago, we went to a conference, and I'll never forget, my wife doesn't even remember the speaker saying this, but it was like he was yelling at me. He goes, what's your fight? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, what's your fight? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you don't have to fight everything, but you got to fight for something. You got to be about something. And those words will never leave. He's like, I'm for foster care. That's what I do. I raise as many kids. I create a safe home. What's your fight? What's the thing that moves you, that God has broken your heart for? If you don't have it, would you just pray this prayer this week? God, break my heart for what breaks yours. But before you can be moved to bring hope, you need to go to the source of hope. And Nehemiah, he's praying over and over and over again. It actually is 6 months before he has a moment where God shows up and says, I'm going to give you an opportunity. This is what happens. It says, early the following spring in the month of Nisan, we missed that one this year, during the 20th year of King Artaxerxes' reign, I was serving the king his wine. I had never before appeared sad in his presence. So the king asked me, why are you looking so sad? You don't look sick to me. You must be deeply troubled. Then I was terrified, but I replied, long live the king. How can I not be sad? For the city where my ancestors are buried is in ruins, and the gates have been destroyed by fire. The king asked, well, how can I help? With a prayer to the God of heaven, I replied, if it please the king, and if you are pleased with me, your servant, send me to Judah to rebuild the city where my ancestors are buried. The king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked, how long will you be gone? When will you return? After I told him how long I would be gone, the king agreed to my request. First thing you do if you want to be filled with hope is you have to be moved by the brokenness you see. Second thing is you need to make plans and take action. When you find your fight, you make plans and you take action. I love what Nehemiah does. Like he's sitting there praying. He's like, God, would you come on behalf of me? Would you open up a door that I could walk through, that I could actually fight the fight I want to fight? And the king asks, like, how can I help? And Nehemiah's not like, well, I maybe like build something. No, he's like, would you let me go for this amount of time? And then the part that I didn't read is he makes two more big asks. You got to be careful with that one. Big asks. He says, one, would you send a military presence with me so I'm safe? So he gets like a giant army that takes him there. And then two, would you pay for it all? Isn't that the right ask you should make? Like, hey, would you make me sure I'm safe? And by the way, would you pay for everything? The king says yes. And he goes. Man, when your heart is broken for something, when you have an awareness and you're moved by it, when you get actually step down and put a face to it, when you realize what your fight is, you got to get in the game. One of the most compelling historical figures to me is a guy named Robert Rykes. In 1780, he was a man in Great Britain, and he was watching kind of the cycle of poverty go on. And he realized it was because of child labor, this forced labor of kids working 6 days a week in squalor, kind of like, it irked him. And he made this decision. Actually, he made this declaration. He said, the world marches forward on the feet of little children. do you feel the weight? Do you feel the fight? And he goes, here's what I'm going to do. They get a day off a week. I'm going to train them on that day. I'm going to teach them to read, write, and learn about God. And that's when Sunday school started. It wasn't something in the corner of a church that we sent our kids to. It was a giant educational reformation. It was this like move to actually make sure people can read and people can have hope and people can break the cycle, because hope frees you from the past. In 50 years, 1.5 million kids were in Sunday school, and there were 160,000 volunteers who just believed that that was their fight. What's your fight? One thing I love about New Lifers is I get to hear the stories all the time of what God is putting on your heart. Moonshot last year, we did the series where we said, what is the big, audacious dream that God has given you? There's a woman in our church, her name's Summer, and Summer said, like, my heart is to break the cycle of addiction. And there's actually this thing in Seattle called Recovery Cafe, and it's this beautiful organization that is known for breaking that cycle, not through anonymity, but actually through knowing you, through knowing your struggles, and through knowing where you want to be. So Recovery Cafe, she has this dream. What if we started one in Kitsap? What if we did it right here? She prayed about it. She thought about it. And you know what happened? She went over there. She made plans and took action. She went over there. She said, can I do all your training? She just finished all their training. They wrote a grant asking for $50,000, just got approved to start Recovery Cafe here to stop the cycle of addiction in Kitsap County. That, like, if I had more time, I would just tell you story after story after story of New Lifers saying, just put me in the game, coach. And as you do that, and as you find your fight, and as you make moves and you make plans and you take action, what I've seen over and over and over again, people go, oh, I want to be a part of that. It's actually what you see in Nehemiah. Nehemiah, one thing I love is he gets close enough to care. He goes to Jerusalem. He doesn't just fund it from far away. He goes to Jerusalem. He sees the brokenness. He scours the walls, and then he creates a plan. And chapter 3 might be the most boring and exciting chapter in the Bible. It starts like this. Then Eliashib, great name, the high priest, and the other priests started to rebuild at the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set up its doors, building the wall as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and the Tower of Hanel. People from the town of Jericho worked next to them, and beyond them was Zakur, son of Imri. Isn't that exciting? Stoked. Do you know what this is actually saying? You read through this, it reads all like this. But 43 different groups of people jump into building the wall. 43 different groups of people say, I want in the game. And you read through it, it's people that are specialists in like certain crafts. It's people that are from the other city that just heard something cool was happening. There's a guy named Jedediah who walked out his front doors like, well, I should build here, I guess. Like he just decided, I want to get in the game. When you have hope, when you have vision, when you have a picture for a better future, people want to jump in. I think the most dangerous thing the church has in front of it is the tendency to lose our missional impulse, to get comfortable in here and forget that Jesus constantly called us to go out, to be a part of the places we're at. The Great Commission, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. Do you know what that word commission means? Co-mission. You go together. It comes from the word committee. You move together. If God has called you to it, my guess is God's called somebody else to it. What's your place? If you have a place, keep going. We need you. The city needs you. If we don't have a place, I have 4 questions that might help spur some thoughts in you. 1, where do you live and what are the needs? Sometimes we just go through life and we don't even ask that question. Where do you live and what are the needs? 2, what are you passionate about? And who shares that passion? 3, what could your family do together? What could your family do? Don't we want families that like the kids are getting like a missional impulse put in them from their courageous parents that said, I'm not just going to sit back and not have a fight my whole life. I'm actually going to have a fight so my kids know how to have a fight. 4, how could God use your story? My wife and I, when we came to Kitsap for the first time, we came to check out New Life to see if this is a church we want to be a part of. It was in 2011, and we were in a series called Find Your Place on the Wall. And I remember we were sitting there, and I was just like, this is everything I've ever dreamed of. Maybe I haven't dreamed of that much, but this is everything I've ever dreamed of. People becoming the church. It's not normal, but that's what we're called to do. We're called to become the church, to say, God, would you stir up in me something? Would you do a work in me? Would you let me be so bothered by something that I can't help but move forward to catch a vision? Because our community needs hope. When you find your place on the wall, you start to help people find hope. The other week, I got the chance to give somebody a tour of the training center. They wanted to do a graduation. She's one of the administrators at Barker Creek. If you don't know what Barker Creek is, it's an alternative school in Bremerton that does a really great job of creating a space for people that feel like they don't fit in at a normal school. They might need extra resources or a smaller classroom. And last year they came in here, and can I tell you, this whole place was packed. It was standing room only. We were not prepared. So this year she comes in, she's like, I want to be here, but we got to be prepared. I'm like, let's do it. So I start showing her everything. This is where we do overflow seating. We can clear the stage off for you. Not sure who's going to do it, but it's going to be awesome. This sign right here, we can take down and move out of the way. And she goes, well, I like that sign. I'm like, why? And she goes, because hope is what we offer every kid who walks through our door. Don't you want something that you're fighting for where you're like, if this ends up the way it's supposed to end up, I'm going to give somebody hope somewhere? You can't do everything, but you can do something. And when you begin to see hope rise up in the community, and when you begin to see people catch on to the message of hope and the idea of hope and the reality of hope, and when hope moves beyond their situation changing to their soul and their heart and their life transforming, you can't stop. The fourth characteristic of a hope-filled person is that they are unstoppable. You can't stop them. I love chapters 4, 5, and 6 because I'm just going to read you the titles. Chapter 4, enemies oppose the rebuilding. Chapter 5, Nehemiah defends the oppressed. Chapter 6, continued opposition to the rebuilding. When you have hope, people aren't going to get it. They're going to fight it. They're going to discount it. These guys started mocking Nehemiah. Like, you can't do this. We're going to tell the king. We're going to tell on you. People are going to come and attack you. And then they started threatening them. We're going to tell people to come and attack you. And then they started plotting against him. And then they started trying to harm him. Look at what happens in chapter 6, 2 through 3. So Sanballat and Geshem, you know, those guys, sent a message asking me to meet them at one of the villages in the plain of Ono. Stay away from Ono. But I realized they were plotting to harm me. So I replied by sending this message to them. I am engaged in a great work, so I can't come. Why should I stop working to come and meet with you? I'm engaged in a great work and I can't come. The NIV translation says, I'm engaged in a great work and I can't come down. What great work are you a part of that is so great that you're like, I can't stop. I got to say no to some things. I got to make adjustments. I'm going to change the way I live, change the way I think, change the way I pray, change things in my life because I'm a part of a fight that's so good that I can't stop. Can I just honest moment with this church? I love Sundays, but these are meant to send us out to go be vessels of hope in the community, to fill us up, to go love at our schools, at our workplaces, to begin to engage and to last longer than anybody else can. About 5 years ago, I had the chance to, for the first time, go down to Los Angeles to be a part of the LA Dream Center. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was founded in 1990-ish in Echo Park region of LA. If you know anything about Echo Park, it's rough. In the 90s, it was not uncommon that in the park there's a lake that you would find a body of a gang member floating. Needles everywhere, pimps and prostitutes, families broken, fights everywhere, gunshots. There's anything that you can imagine when you think of a place of poverty and oppression and brokenness. That was Echo Park. I went 5 years ago and I looked around. I was like, this park is like Green Lake in Seattle. Like, it's gorgeous. This city is transforming. These businesses are doing well. Something's happening. And so I asked people in the city, what happened? They're like, the Dream Center came in. So I was like, I got to go to the Dream Center. I said, hey guys, what happened? What did you do? What was your missional thing that you did? And they said, we just believe this: whoever lasts longest in the community wins it. So we outlast. We outlast the pimp, the gang leaders, the drug dealers, the absent parents. We outlast the systems that oppress these kids. We outlast the city council that won't allow certain things to be done. We just outlast. Can we be that church? Where you see something broken, you're like, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to keep fighting, and I'm going to outlast the whole time through. Because there's enough people in here that this county can be different just if this room commits to outlast. I had a moment this week that's kind of like a re-up moment for me. Like, I love this job, I love this church, but I had a moment that was a re-up. I was thinking about the people in this church and the things that the people do. And my wife and I, we were flying to Maui, so maybe it was a month ago. We were flying to Maui. That has nothing to do with anything. I just wanted you to know I went to Maui. No, I'm just kidding. We were flying to Maui, and we were prepping our hearts and prepping our answers, because people always ask me on an airplane, what do you do? And I say, well, I work at a church. I'm a pastor. And they're like, okay, bye-bye. And they put their headphones in. You want to shut somebody up? Tell them that. Or they confess all their sins, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. But I was like, Melissa, how would I answer the question if I wasn't allowed to use the words pastor, church, God, or Jesus? I was like, that's a loaded question. Then I started thinking about it, and this week I've been processing it more and more and more and more. And I would say that I get to be a part of a community that fights human trafficking. Generous community that does what they love to fight what they hate. A community that fights against the foster care crisis. So I'm with a generation, I'm with a community that fights to see third graders learn how to read. I'm part of a community that gives generously and serves generously and volunteers so teenagers can have people that care about them. I'm part of a community that's committed to ethically integrous business leaders. And we think if the business world is integrous, that things are going to change. I'm part of a community that's committed to fighting addiction, that's committed to being for men, that's committed to being for women. I'm a part of a community that's devoted to being committed to seeing our city transform. I'm part of a community of people that fight. I had a re-up moment with that. Because us at our best, when we leave here and go, okay, my Sunday has to affect my Monday and my Tuesday and my Wednesday and my Thursday and my Friday, us at our best, we offer hope to a world that feels hopeless. And when they hear the good news about Jesus, they look back and they say it's from the people that were committed to us all along. So New Life, can we be people who have a fight that's bigger than ourselves? Would you stand with me? Jesus, would you work in our spirits? God, for those of us that have a fight, would you give us that unstoppable characteristic? That part that won't stop moving towards seeing your heart and your will made done in that brokenness. God, would you surround us with people who will encourage us and keep us from discouragement? Would you let hope rise up in us? God, if we're here and there's just nothing that we're fighting, God, would you put a fight in us? Would you put a brokenness in us? Would you put an awareness, and would you move our spirit closer to you? And God, in the same way that Nehemiah said, I'm doing a great work, I can't come down, Lord, you said on the cross to the two men mocking and scoffing, I am doing a great work, I cannot come down. And God, would that compel us? Would that move us today? God, there's some of us in here that need to respond to that for the first time. Would hope rise up in us, God? And can we stand in your love? Can we be committed to your heart? And can we fight in Jesus' name? Praise in your name. Amen.